From the campus of St. Ambrose College, this is ATC 5 Dateline. Even though Walter Mondale was the clear winner in the Iowa caucuses, coming in a surprising second was Senator Gary Hart. Senator Hart was on the St. Ambrose campus, and here's Julie Mangan with the story.
Once again, St. Ambrose College was the spot for the campaign trail for this week's caucuses. Senator Hart made a second appearance to speak to the students at St. Ambrose College, and his speech focused on our future.
Because I'm a Democrat, as many of you are, not only because our party has represented equality and justice and opportunity throughout 200-year history of this nation, but also because our party has been the instrument of change and progress when this country had to move forward. At issue in 1984 is the politics of the future versus the politics of the past. We need to win back not only the voters who traditionally vote Democratic, we need to win back millions of Americans of the 75 million who could have voted in 1980 and chose not to. We need to have millions of young people voting in this election because it is indeed the future of the present generation that is at stake.
For ATC Dateline, I'm Julie Mangan.
Even though the Iowa caucuses are a long time away, presidential candidates are already campaigning in Iowa, and one of them stopped at St. Ambrose last week. Kirk Hayden has more.
Reverend Jesse Jackson spoke to a packed Galvin Fine Arts Center attempting to drum up support for a presidential bid in 1988. Jackson told listeners his Rainbow Coalition's main issue is human priorities at home and human rights abroad. He also commented on the importance of ending farm foreclosures.
Give the farmers a chance, give them mercy and a sense of supply management. Do not turn our backs on the hands that have fed us. It's a challenge of our day.
Jackson, a Democrat, was one of the top 3 contenders in '84 and said in a news conference he's currently ranked second in the polls behind Gary Hart, but that soon will change.
I expect for us to change places. I could handle the adjustment. I hope he could. Right now he's number 1, I'm number 2, and I'm willing to adjust. I hope he is.
This is TV 11 Dateline. These days, the news is filled with names of people who are campaigning for the presidency in 1988. One of those hopefuls made a stop at St. Ambrose Saturday. Senator Robert Dole, a Republican for Kansas, paid a visit in an effort to organize local supporters. And from the onset, he made his intentions known.
So I'm here to suggest that I would make a pretty good candidate. And I would hope that when it's all over, even before it's over, we're going to have a lot of support in this part of Iowa.
After a short stay and a news conference, Dole was off for the rest of his Iowa tour.
Presidential hopeful Bill Bradley visited St. Ambrose University radio station KALA Wednesday. The former senator was in the studio as a guest on the Jared and Jarrett show. Bradley says his campaign is geared towards the younger generation because he feels it is time for them to stand up and be counted.
Future, that's what I'm talking about constantly, and telling them that they can shape their own future. And the key is for them to get involved in the democratic process. I mean, to participate in the caucuses and be a part of it, because that way they'll have the power that they deserve.
Bradley also added the economic growth should be shared. He wants to work on patching up America's social fabric, making health care available to everyone, and emphasizing that people need to look beyond skin color when working with each other. Bradley has been active in the public arena for over 30 years. He gained fame as an outstanding athlete, was the captain of the gold medal winning U.S. basketball team in the 1964 Olympics, and played in the NBA with the New York Knicks. Bradley recently was named one of the 50 greatest players of all time. In 1978, he was elected to the U.S. Senate, where he served there for 18 years.
The St. Ambrose University campus played host to presidential candidate last Wednesday, and his visit brought some major media attention. Massachusetts Senator John Kerry made an appearance in the Beehive looking to attract voters for the Iowa caucuses. A throng of cameras and reporters were also on hand to witness Kerry's speech. All of the local TV stations, newspapers were in attendance, and the event was widely covered by the national media as well. Hundreds of people packed the Beehive to hear the senator's words. The Iowa caucuses were held on Monday, January 19th, with Senator Kerry emerging as the winner in Iowa.
The candidates for President of the United States are busy campaigning across the country as Election Day approaches. Their focus is on critical swing states where the outcome is close to call. President Obama tried to rally Iowans in the last stretch of his campaign this past week.
Recent polls indicate Obama's youth support is waning. The president tried to regain some of that support Wednesday in Davenport.
Hello, Iowa! Hello, Quads! It's good to be back.
Well, the 6 electoral votes are going to make a difference in the Electoral College, and you know it's even nationwide, and it's tight here in Iowa too. So every vote matters.
I want them manufactured here in Iowa. I want them made in the United States of America.
I'm happy to be here today. We're going to make sure we bring this thing home, and we're going to have a victory on November 6th.
With only 2 weeks left in the campaign, President Obama tried to swing the key Iowa vote here at the Mississippi Valley Fairgrounds.
I know lots of fellow young Republicans who feel the same way about the current state of the party and are actually supporting the president this year because they feel they have a lack of options.
I would say I associate more with Republican ideologies, but like Brock touched on, you know, everything with part of Romney's economic plan just seems sketchy.
We can't afford to go back to what got us into this mess. We've got to stick with policies that are getting out of this mess. That's why I'm running for a second term as president of the United States of America.
The numbers don't add up. The tax cuts don't add up. He hasn't been specific about what he wants to do. Brock has a clear-cut plan that I think we can all rally behind.
Because nobody who's fought for America should have to fight for a job when they come home.
The president had lunch at Antonella's in downtown Davenport. He then traveled 4,300 miles and capped off his day in Las Vegas.
Davenport Fire Marshal Mike Heyman says 3,500 people were at the event. It was the president's 10th time in Iowa this year.
After President Obama visited the Quad Cities last week, Mitt Romney made a campaign stop to try and tighten the race in a vital swing state. SAU TV's Tim McNicholas has more on the story.
Tuesday, Mitt Romney wasted no time to gain ground on President Obama. Romney tried to win over Davenport with a speech at the Seven Cities Sod Farm.
Opportunities abound as well, because we're the most productive people in the world. We make more stuff per person than anybody else in the world.
Young students are graduating from St. Ambrose and other colleges all around America with tremendous debt and no jobs. And so we need to get this economy growing again, so when you graduate from St. Ambrose, you have a good paying job so you can start paying down that debt. And I think Governor Romney and myself understand what it takes to create those jobs.
Governor Romney hit Iowa hard in the home stretch of his campaign. He had to win over undecideds in the state to take his opponent out of office.
This is a big election. This election is going to have major impact, not just for 4 years, but for a generation.
Realistically, the most important issue, as far as I can see, is getting the balancing the budget and making sure that the debt isn't passed on to the future generations. And the fact that he's prioritizing that is above everything, because along with that, everything else will follow. You know, the education system, he has like you said, a solid plan for education.
We've been waiting to hire people. We lost our payroll clerk. We haven't replaced her. We outsourced it for now until we know where we are going to be financially, and our cost, you know, for health care and that. We're just waiting to see what it's going to cost us if Mr. Romney is not successful.
And I'm convinced America can't lose when you help me become the next president of the United States.
Over 2,200 were on hand for the event. Governor Romney headed to Ohio after the Quad Cities stop. From there, he was set to hit Florida, but had to cancel due to weather on the East Coast. Tim McNicholas, Dateline, SAU.
Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump made a campaign stop last week at the Mississippi Valley Fairgrounds in Davenport to, as his campaign says, make America great again. Dateline SAU's Lauren Crew has attended Quad City rallies for several presidential candidates, and she was there for the current GOP frontrunner.
Hundreds of Quad City area residents crowded the stage to watch GOP candidate Donald Trump give his speech. On December 5th, the Trump campaign stormed through the Mississippi Valley Fairgrounds. Twisted Sisters, We're Not Gonna Take It, introduced Trump and set the tone of the afternoon. Trump spent a significant amount of time criticizing his opponents and the media, but took some time to talk about important issues.
We're going to make our military so strong, so powerful, so incredible. Nobody's going to mess with it. Nobody. Common Core is out the window.
However, some members of the crowd weren't all that impressed with the lack of substance presented by Trump.
I don't particularly like him, but I hate Hillary. And he is the currently strongest anti-Hillary.
It looks like that embarrassing drunk uncle of yours at the holidays is running for president.
Even though some people weren't impressed, Trump's loyal supporters were there ready to represent. The true test of supporters will come February 1st with Iowa's caucus. Lauren Crew, Dateline SAU.
Our top story, a presidential hopeful made a campaign stop at St. Ambrose University this week. South Bend, Indiana Mayor Pete Buttigieg is the third Democratic presidential candidate to take part in a Leading the Nation forum. The event includes a speech from the candidate, questions from a panel of student and professional journalists, and questions from members of the audience. Before being welcomed by over 1,000 people in Lee Lohman Arena, a dozen students got the chance to meet privately with the candidate, vying for the nation's top political post.
As a senior here, I spent a lot of time reflecting, and one of my reflections is how fortunate I've been to have opportunities just like this here at St. Ambrose.
2020 Democratic presidential hopefuls are making stops on the St. Ambrose campus. Senator Kamala Harris and former U.S. Secretary of Housing and Urban Development Julian Castro stopped at St. Ambrose University last week. Harris held a town hall October 17th, telling the audience what they can expect from her if she receives the nomination.
In 2020, justice is on the ballot.
The rest of the evening, questions ranging from homelessness, bullying in schools, and the issue of bigotry were topics brought up by people in attendance. The following night, Castro held a Leading the Nation forum, taking questions from panelists about affordable education, healthcare, and foreign policy in places like war-torn Africa.
Pursue foreign policy and foreign investment that better reflects those values. You're right, there are a lot of things that play into our relationships with foreign governments, right? But I do think that we can move in the direction of not propping up dictators, whether they're in Africa or they're in Latin America.
Our top story with the Iowa caucus just 2 months away, another Democratic presidential hopeful made a stop here at St. Ambrose University. New Jersey Senator Cory Booker participated in a Leading the Nation forum at the Beehive on Saturday, December 7th. In his remarks, Booker said Iowa has always been a forward-thinking state in elections. He stressed the need to end child poverty and discussed the lack of diversity in the Democratic Party. Booker also spoke against the DNC debate policies. Booker doesn't agree with the cap of 20 participants needing 1% in the polls and requiring a minimum of 65,000 donors.